Hey, welcome to Missions Life Chronicles. Thanks for checking us out. What is Missions Life Chronicles and who are we? You may be asking. Well, let's start with who are we. So I'm Brian.
I'm Becky.
We are your host for Mission Life Chronicles. A little bit about us. We pastor in a small town, in a small church in central Nebraska, southeast Nebraska. We've been missionaries in Southeast Asia in the mid-2010s for 3 to 4 years. And you're going to hear more about that. And so what is Missions Life Chronicles? Missions Life Chronicles is really, how would you describe it?
We wanted to throw together a podcast for missionaries to not just be able to share some of what they do ministry-wise, but to share what their life is like. Because so much of the time, when you come off the field or you do, furloughs and things like that, you're going to churches and you're reporting. You're in report mode, constant reporting. This is how many people we've reached and, all those kinds of things, which are great. But not very often do they get to share what their life was like. Just some of the funny things that they experiences, some of the experiences that have happened to them. The good, the bad, and the funny.
That's kind of what we say a lot and you're going to hear that a lot on this video, this podcast, is the good, the bad, and the funny.
Which, and that's the truth of life overseas. You're in another culture. You don't always understand everything about that culture. And so you experience good, you experience some bad, and you experience a lot of funny. And so that's what we want to kind of focus in on is especially the funny. And so we're going to be bringing a lot of stories and just help you understand what life is like for various missionaries in various parts of the world.
So speaking of stories, and so if you're a missionary kid or a missionary or you've been on a short-term missions trip and you have a funny story, you can send it to this email address and we may put it on one of our shows, one of our podcasts, and share it with the world. And I mean, you guys have some funny stories that we want to hear and read. So speaking of funny stories, you have a funny story, right?
Yes.
Okay, disclaimer. So quick disclaimer. Funny stories, missionaries, they could be gross. Some
people would consider gross.
Some might consider them offensive. So I'm just going to be honest with you guys. So we were eating a meal in a small village, and we asked, what is it? And what was their response?
Don't ask.
Just eat.
Yes. So
it could have been Fido, for all we know.
Yeah, somebody, could have been Spot, after he passed away.
Yes.
So what's in some countries they eat what we would consider a family pet, or various things like that. So be prepared. Some of the stories may be like that. So I have one here that kind of exemplifies this situation. So this is from someone who lived in Papua New Guinea. Okay. So there was a village elder who had lost his leg. Since using a wheelchair in the jungle village is nearly impossible, he decided to get a horse. We have no idea where he got it because horses are not native to Papua New Guinea. I mean, I guess maybe he could have ordered it from Australia?
Yeah, mail order horses.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Because the internet,
didn't exist back then, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. This is an older story.
Believe it or not, kids, there was a time before internet.
Yeah, I know, really. But I don't know how this guy would have gotten a horse. But anyhow.
A Sears catalog.
Yeah, really. He would regularly use it to get around the village until one day it got loose and was hit by a car. Sorry, horse people.
Yeah.
It got hit by a car.
That's sad.
They had to put it down, but rather than just burying it, they decided to have a feast with it called a mumu, which is similar to a luau. So they basically had kind of like a luau with the horse.
I'm sorry.
Hey, invite all his friends over. Hey, come over, have a little bit of chestnut.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I don't even know what to do with that.
I know.
Seriously, my horse is dead. Let's party.
Well, he wasn't partying because the horse was dead. He was,
Okay, so here's another question.
That's a lot of good meat,
That is a lot of good meat. Did somebody set the horse loose?
That's a good question. Somebody might have been hungry.
Someone was like, I want some horse meat. Sorry,
I don't know.
horse lovers.
Must have looked delicious, maybe, or something.
Must have.
that's a little bit of an example of what you might hear on here. And it's a different culture. That's what they do. Food is food, right?
Like we consider insects inedible, unedible, however you say it. But I can tell you, grasshoppers are delicious.
Okay, when we lived in Southeast Asia, our daughter would actually go and get like bamboo worms and eat those, just like out of a bag from the market. But then McDonald's.
We had a McDonald's.
McDonald's didn't have apple pies. They had corn pies because they considered corn, because it's sweet, to be a dessert item. So they had corn pies. So it's almost like cream corn inside the pie. I think
it actually sounds pretty good.
But anyways, and she thought that was disgusting. I don't know why.
But she would sit there and eat bamboo worms like it was popcorn, and some of them did pop.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true. Anyway, so, those are some of the things we're going to be talking about. And
we're going to have missionaries on here, just sharing their stories. So one of the things we want to be able to do is to promote young people going into missions and hearing their story and what inspired them to go into missions, other than Matthew 28:19. We all know the scripture. Go and make disciples of all nations. Every missionary uses it. We use it. Every missionary I know uses it.
Yeah.
But like, what inspired these people to go into missions is kind of what we want you to hear. And actually, we want you to be inspired. We want them to be. We want the listener to be inspired.
Yeah, it's not just about the funny. It's great to have the funny, and that's always fun to experience that. But you also want to be inspired to live mission.
Live mission. That is kind of like
live the mission wherever you are.
Yes.
And so,
whether it's in small town Nebraska or major city in New York or Chicago or Seattle. Wherever you're at, live the mission. Yeah.
So I have another story.
Okay.
But it's because of where I grew up.
Okay. So where'd you grow up? So she grew up she's an MK. And so where did you grow up?
Okay. I grew up in Papua New Guinea.
Living in a grass hut.
I did not live in a grass hut. Okay, yeah, whatever. Everybody thinks you lived like in the middle of nowhere. You must have lived in a grass hut. No, we didn't live in a grass hut. It was a house. It was a little bit off the ground. It was, it wasn't like huge stilts, but it was off the ground a little bit.
With a grass roof.
It did not have a grass roof. It was a tin roof, okay? But, and we had electricity and all that kind of stuff. We were actually pretty fortunate for being out in the middle of nowhere. We were on a decent base.
Electricity was a hamster on a wheel.
It was not. Anyways, so we lived out there, but we weren't really close to any hospitals or anything. But shortly after we got there, I was 8 and my younger sister was 3. And we decided to go play out on this kind of like a mound that had some bamboo sticking up out of it, and we were climbing around on the bamboo. Well, when the natives would cut the bamboo to use it for various purposes, they would cut it at kind of an angle. And so my sister was climbing up some of the bamboo and slipped, and basically kind of landed with her side on one of the sharp pieces, and she was bleeding and things like that. So I ended up picking her up and starting to carry her inside and calling, so it wasn't very far. I had to carry her across a little field to where my house was, and I'm calling for my mom and saying, that my sister cut herself on bamboo. What do I do? And it was a pretty big gash in her side. And my mom said to, put her on the kitchen table kind of thing, and we'll take a look at it. And we got some towels and things like that. Well, this whole time you're thinking, my sister's, gonna, she's in pain. She, what is she gonna think about what's happening? Is she thinking she's gonna die? No. Her main concern was the skirt. She was wearing a brand new skirt that my mom had made. My mom had let her pick out the material, and my mom had made it for her. And she loved the skirt, and she was upset that she may have ruined her skirt. So she ended up being taken an hour and a half away to the hospital and got stitches and everything. And it was fine. She didn't hit any vital organs or anything like that. So praise God that didn't happen. But so she was fine, but yes, her major concern was Her
The
skirt. Exactly. I mean, all the other things she could be thinking about.
Yeah.
No, she's thinking about her favorite skirt.
And you'll probably
getting
hear a
all
lot
yucky.
more stories like that from MKs and missionaries and stuff. MKs and missionaries are just built differently sometimes. They just they go with the flow.
Yeah.
You know, I know we had to when we lived in Southeast Asia. Things didn't always go as planned, and things
Yeah.
were difficult, and
Yeah.
things were challenging, but it was rewarding. So
Yeah. So,
anyways, so that's this is just going to be a short intro, who we are, what this podcast is all about.
we also we're going to be creating a website that is going to list all the missionaries that we have onto the podcast, so that if you watch a podcast and you're like, hey, I'd like to know more about that missionary, you can go to the website, and we'll let you know what it is as we get it up. But so you can go to the website and then look that person up if you want to talk to them or possibly support them or just want to know more about their ministry. So as part of it too is we want to promote people that are doing good work overseas.
Thank you so much for watching. But before you click off, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Helps us out a lot. I hate it when YouTubers say that, but now that I feel like I gotta say it. Anyways, thank you for spending your time with us, and go and live the mission.
Yeah.